We've stumbled upon a knot controversy. A notroversy, if you will. In my so-called sheet bend video, I was actually showing a left-hand sheet bend in error. In the regular right-hand sheet bend, the tag ends must be on the same side of the knot. I've been tying this knot incorrectly. This revelation led me down a sheet bend rabbit hole. To provide some more context, let's look at the relationship of these two bends to the bowline. The right-hand sheet bend has the same structure as the traditional bowline, and the left-hand sheet bend has the same structure as the left-hand bowline. Keep this relationship in mind for later. In his legendary Ashley Book of Knots, Clifford Ashley claimed that the left-hand sheet bend is not as reliable as the regular right-hand sheet bend. And with many taking Ashley's book as holy writ, this belief has become widespread. Ashley also writes that the left-hand bowline is distinctly inferior to the right-hand bowline because of its similarity to the left-hand sheet bend. But here's where things get interesting. Modern research has shown that the two versions of the bowline have no real difference in residual breaking strength. In fact, the left-hand bowline seems to be more secure than the traditional bowline when cross-loaded. Recall the relationship between the sheet bend and the bowline. Note that the bowline is loaded slightly differently than the sheet bend because one of the tag ends is connected to the same knot to form a loop in the bowline. So it may not be entirely correct to extrapolate results from the bowline to the sheet bend. However, a user on the International Guild of Knot Tiers forum describes carrying out tests indicating that the left-hand sheet bend is actually more secure than its right-hand counterpart. Peer-reviewed research covering these finer details of knots seems to be lacking. The Ashley Book of Knots, while widely loved and a seminal work on knots, should not be considered rigorous scientific literature. Repeatedly jerking a weight by hand or using a nearby faucet as a metronome widens the margin of error potentially creeping into his experiments. Ashley's documentation of the test setups is also sometimes imprecise, making it difficult to repeat these experiments or even interpret the results in a meaningful way. In spite of this, it's still a great compendium of knots and a must-have book for knot enthusiasts. As for the two sheet bends, I'm not suggesting you should necessarily start using the left-hand sheet bend over the right-hand sheet bend, but it has never failed me in my humble applications in camping or with everyday household tasks. And if I did need a bend in a life-critical operation, I'd opt for the double sheet bend over either of the single sheet bends anyway, or maybe a double fisherman's bend. And that's probably more than you wanted to know about the sheet bend. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.